Vince,
Yes,
we're only doing this once, man.
we are.
Special edition of the Clinical Dose coming your way, guys. This is going to be the pandemic edition, the COVID-19 edition, the lockdown edition. A little bit of background for people who may not be watching this as it's fresh off the press. At the time of recording, here in South Australia, we have just begun a 7-day hard lockdown, meaning like stay at home unless you are an essential worker. We are here shooting this video because we are classed as essential workers with the online side of the business of MassiveJoes and TMJ Apparel. So we're not breaking the law, shooting. We're not fleeting in the face of directions by shooting this video. Let's just get that out in the open right from the start. So we're in lockdown here in South Australia. The whole state of Victoria is also in lockdown. Greater Sydney is also in lockdown. I think as a percentage of population, Vince, that's got to be close to half the country.
You would think so, yeah. They're probably, Victoria and New South Wales are probably two of the most dense states in Australia.
For sure. That also added to the fact that we are now 16 months post beginning of the first lockdown, which was back at the end of March, start of April 2020. So a lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people are angry. On the other side, there's a lot of people who are, taking it as it comes. Happy-go-lucky. But there's a lot of people who need a bunch of advice as well. So the way that we went about this episode was I put up an Instagram story on my personal Instagram and I said, we're going to do an episode of the Clinical Dose. Ask us anything that you want to ask about the pandemic. It can be, how to stay on top of your mental health, how to stay on top of your physical health. It can be things to do with the lockdowns, the vaccine, anything that you want to ask us, ask us. We're going to do one episode. We're going to pick the 5 best questions. And what we've actually done is we've got a lot of similar questions. So we've grouped them into 5 questions. And here we go. Question 1, Vince.
So because I've done that and grouped them together, I've taken away names as well, so there'll be no names.
This is the anonymous episode.
It's the anonymous episode, episode 37.
And also because, we know that a lot of people, say things privately that perhaps they don't want their name attached to publicly for fear of public shame or, all of these other cultural issues that we're experiencing at the moment, societal issues, I should say. So anonymous, pandemic focused, question 1.
How do you stay consistent with your diet and training, and how have you had to adapt then to compensate for the lockdown?
I'll let you lead off on this, Vince.
So mine's pretty much the same, to be honest. I haven't had to compensate a lot. Obviously moved from gym-based workouts to home gym workouts, and I have had to change my training. So because just due to the equipment, I've gone from a 6-day split, kind of a bro split, training one muscle group, and I've gone to a push-pull legs. Twice a week, just to get more volume through my workouts and burn more calories, so I can therefore keep my diet the same. And that's my goal with that. That's all I've really had to change.
Yeah, mine's very similar, man. Like, consistency with your diet, you just stick to your diet. There's not really much other advice that we can give there. There's no reason. I think what a lot of people do is they go into lockdown, they're throwing out a routine, and because their daily routine is thrown out, everything else gets thrown. It's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Everything else gets thrown out at the same time. There's really no reason not to stick to your diet as you would if you were in normal routine. Perhaps you got to move timing around. Obviously, you're moving location around if you're at home in lockdown, you're not in the office, whatever that situation may look like. But there's no reason not to stick to your diet. It's just lack of willpower, really. So far as your training goes, I'm the same as you. Obviously, gyms are closed here in Victoria and Sydney at the moment. So I've gone from fully functional gym-based workouts with all of the machines that I would normally use to home workouts. I got a little home gym set up. It's very, very basic. Just dumbbells, barbell, Smith machine, and that's pretty much it. So I've kept my split exactly the same. I'm incorporating body weight exercises, resistance band exercises. I don't have cables or anything like that, so those are completely out. So the split's the same. The exercises have changed quite significantly, and then I'm just trying to make sure that my workout intensity stays where it is. I think it's very easy when you go from full gym workouts to home workouts. You kind of let the foot off the gas a little bit and kind of take it easy. So that's been a focus for me.
Yeah, and I guess really all you can do with your training is what you can. I think we're allowed 90 minutes outdoors, is it, for a walk or something each day?
Yeah.
So obviously, if you want to get some cardio in outdoors, take that opportunity. If you have equipment at home, work with what you have to come up with some sort of routine based on the equipment you have.
Absolutely. And there's some similarities between question 1 and question 2, Vince.
There is. So tips to keep on top of your routine during lockdown, and what's your favorite home gym exercise?
Let's start with favorite home gym exercise, because that's a bit of a segue.
It is. I'm trying to think of mine.
Mine's easy, man.
What's
My
your
favorite one is I get a barbell,
Yeah.
and I put weight plates on the edge of the barbell, and I do walking lunges as far as I go until I decide to, because I do them outside.
Yeah,
like I
right.
do them on the road or the footpath or whatever it is. I just grab it, chuck it on my back, and let's go 50 steps.
Yeah.
Or 100 steps, or you know, until I can't move. I like that. I like doing, you know why? Because it brings back, it's very nostalgic for me. When I was a lot younger, first getting into bodybuilding, I used to watch Ronnie Coleman's DVDs back then.
Yeah.
And he used to do that outside of Metro Flex.
I remember walking out of the gym all the way out down the road.
Metro Flex in Dallas, in Texas, he used to just chuck it on his back and then just walk through the car park and do car park lunges.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm Ronnie Coleman.
I must say, for mine, probably not walking to the gym, but at home, my setup has a leg press on it.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I'm coming to train at your gym.
Yeah, I quite like that. Just heaps of reps.
All right, and then the other part of the question, tips to keep on top of your routine during the lockdown. So let's just go like general routine.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's, we've kind of touched on training and dieting, but let's go, you know, overall routine.
Keep consistent with what you can do.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're working at the office and you're working from home, keep consistent with your work. Don't start slacking off. Set yourself a routine and wake up time, sleep time like you normally would.
That's a big one, man.
Yeah.
That is such, you know, the best thing that you guys can do to keep in overall general routine is to get up at the same time, go to sleep at the same time as you normally would. The first thing people do in lockdown, they sleep in, don't set an alarm, then they lose the first 2-3 hours of the day because they slept in, and then it messes up the circadian rhythm, and then it's time to go to bed. You know, I might just binge watch some shit on Netflix or, you know, whatever it may be, and then it's midnight, 1, 2 in the morning.
100%.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you know, and it just fucks everything up. So that is such an important point.
And especially up for a bad time coming out of lockdown, when you have to go back to work, and you're like, shit, I'm tired now because I've been up till 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the other thing would be, if you're not working, do the same thing, but get up and be productive around the house.
100%.
Do something around the house, clean the house, do that thing that you haven't done because you haven't had time because you've been at work. Get that stuff done and make the most out of the time that you do have at home.
The productivity thing is, you know, guys, the temptation is there to just do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of the government messaging, right? It's like stay at home, don't leave your house, apart to exercise or walk the dog or go to the supermarket, whatever the fuck it is. Don't do anything, you know, for 7 days, 14 days, whatever it is. And that's kind of the messaging, and you know, the temptation is there to literally do nothing.
Yeah.
You know, to just binge watch TV, play computer games, just fuck off. It's the worst thing you can do for your mental health in particular, let alone your physical health. Get up at the same time, be productive during the day, even if your productivity looks different to how it normally would. If you're productive in the office, but you don't have, you know, you can't be in the office, do your work from home. If there's no work to be done, perhaps you work in retail or you're working in hospitality and you just have been told, you know, we're shut. You know, do some productive shit at home. Maybe it's reading a book, maybe it's self-development shit, maybe it's doing some, exactly like you said, doing some stuff around the house that you've been putting off because you've been too busy to do it. Be productive.
Even some people want to start their side hustle or something like that and you never had time to actually look into it. Perfect time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, the first lockdown, one of the crew here, Caleb, well, you guys know Caleb, he's in every second trying to take my spot in Clinical Dose. He used the first lockdown to do that. He's always been wanting to do a podcast, and he used the time to do his first podcast. He did a bunch of episodes in there. So, you know, you just do something. Be productive. Question 3.
What does a lockdown achieve? And thoughts on the lockdown coming in days before the state of emergency was set to end? I'm gonna let you take on this one because I didn't know the state of emergency was about to end. So that's something I found out for these questions. Man.
It was. They kind of extend it for 28 days at a time.
There you go.
And then it was due to end. I mean, it's been due to end multiple times, and they just keep extending it, right? So this is not. I think that, that coincidence of having a lockdown before a state of emergency was set to end, if you actually go back and look at every time it's been extended, it's just a coincidence. You can go conspiracy theory, the government was about to lose its powers, that's why they put us back in lockdown.
Yeah.
If you go back and look, guys, they've extended, the very first state of emergency was, I believe it was the start of March to the end of March 2020.
Yeah,
and then it got extended, and then it got extended, and it's been extended 16 times as they get towards the end of it. You don't need a lockdown to extend a state of emergency. The commissioner just signs off and goes, boom, state of emergency extended. So I think that's a little bit, conspiratorial, if that's the right word. I think it was just a coincidence.
Yeah.
What does a lockdown achieve? I think the theory behind locking people down is if you think about how viruses spread, right? And I think the consensus at this point is that the COVID virus spreads through particles in the air, spreads through saturating the air with the virus. The longer that a certain person who is infectious is in a particular airspace, the more virus will be in the room, the more people that are in that same airspace, the higher the chances are they will contract the virus. I think that's kind of the consensus at the moment. Viruses don't move by themselves, right? They need people to move in order for the virus to move. Right? If I had COVID at the moment, this room would be full of COVID aerosols and particles and all that sort of shit, but it's not walking out the door and going across to the supermarket and infecting the people over there and then going to all of the retail, viruses need people to move in order to spread. So the theory behind a lockdown is if you want to slow the spread of a virus, you slow the spread of people.
Stopping movement, essentially. You're stopping people from from transporting the virus from one area to another.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that is what, that's what a lockdown is intended to achieve.
Yeah.
Does a lockdown actually achieve that? I think there's probably a lot of evidence to suggest that yes, it does. What are the side effects of a lockdown? That's when you open a can of worms.
Yeah, there's
that's when it leads to the argument as well, Vince, where, okay, these are the pros of a lockdown, these are the cons of a lockdown, how do they balance up?
Yeah, and that's exactly, I guess, from the government point of view, the lockdown is beneficial over public health and safety, and that's where they're going. From a business point of view, they're crushing a lot of businesses, but they're saying the public health and safety is better and valued more than the business side of things.
Well,
so they're willing to lose out on that.
And people's mental health and people's physical health. And you really, from a lockdown perspective, there's one pro. There's one positive, and the positive is to slow the spread of a virus, whatever the virus may be. The cons bucket is full of negatives.
100%.
It's full of economic impact, mental health impact, physical health impact. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we have elected officials in a democratic society who have been elected to make these decisions on behalf of the public. That's what they're doing in office. They're public servants at the end of the day. And they are the ones making the decision that we think that this one pro of stopping the spread of the virus and all of the on-flow effects of doing that, or the on-flow effects of not doing that, and what happens if the virus gets out of control, is more important than all of the negative effects of lockdown.
Yeah.
It's pretty much as objectively as we can put it.
100%, yeah.
Next question.
Top 3 tips on keeping your mental health in check during lockdown.
Beautiful.
I mean, for me, it would be keeping your routine, like we spoke on before, is definitely one. If you have a lot of spare time, even find something don't let yourself sit there bored or just binge watching TV, because you will get sick of that pretty quickly. Even potentially staying off some social media, because there'll be a lot of people on there throwing negative impacts of the lockdown, everything like that, getting into your head, rather than...
Or positives.
I mean, there is positives as well.
Social media tends to reinforce what we already believe.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
There's the bias. So if you're all for lockdowns, your social media feed is going to be full of positive shit about lockdowns, which is not necessarily good either.
Yeah.
Right. Because it leads to confirmation bias, cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of problems with that as well.
I guess what I'm trying to say is the people who make you feel negative when you are, unfollow them or don't watch them. Get that out and just, even potentially reading a book, something like that. Just filling that spare time would be probably my top tip.
did a full podcast on this, guys, back on the 28th of March, 2020.
There you go.
So it's about as old as the pandemic now, coming up to 16 months. Dilla, throw this up on screen real quick because you're not going to be able to see it on the camera. It's called Rethinking Rona, 5 Strategies to Stay on Top of Your Mental Health. And it's as relevant now as it was back all those months ago. And I go through not just 3, but 5 tips to stay on top of your mental health. I really, really, really encourage you guys to go back and listen to that podcast. Even if you did when it first dropped at the start of last year, go back and re-listen to it and actually take notes, like write it down, because they are the 5, in my personal opinion, the 5 most important things you can do to stay on top of your mental health. And I address things like keeping your routine in check, keeping on top of your physical health with what you're eating, how you're exercising, what sort of exercise you can do, not watching the news, you know, not consuming this content that is, I mean, you know, we talk about social media, mainstream media is always dramatic. You know, and 100%. For the most part, always negative. You know, it's all this, you know, fear and horror and all this bullshit. Turn it off. You know, you're in complete control. We've never had more fragmentation in media than we have ever had today, that we have today. You're in complete control of what you consume. Don't fucking consume it. Consume this sort of stuff. This is the good shit. So I encourage you guys, we're going to pop a link in the description box down below directly to that podcast, or whatever podcasting platform you listen to, just type in Rethinking Rona or Fitness Times Business Rethinking Rona and it'll come straight up. Last question.
Pros and cons of the vaccine from a health and business point of view, and do you trust the vaccine?
I was hoping we'd go here, Vince.
Someone's come with a controversial question.
I hope we would go here. Oh man, where do you start? How do you want to unpack this one?
I mean, pros and cons from a health point of view of the vaccine. I mean, from what we see anyway, pros is that potentially you won't feel, if you get COVID, you won't get as sick from COVID. Pro. Con is potentially we don't know the long-term side effects and possibly the short-term side effects of the vaccine. We don't know those yet. Really, they're the 2 pros and cons. That's why you'd get the vaccine. If your circumstances where you're potentially willing to get sick, or we're going to get sick and have devastating circumstances from getting sick, you would get the vaccine. If you weren't, then potentially the side effects could be worse. We don't know yet. So that's my kind of pros and cons.
And I think that you're pretty much bang on the money there. Before I say anything about the vaccine, I just want to make it completely transparent, completely known that I am not anti-vax, I am not pro-vax, I am pro-choice. So I am all for people choosing whether or not they want to take a vaccine or whether or not they want to drink alcohol or take drugs or whatever the situation is. I'm all for choice. I'm not going to judge people for it. It's your body, it's your choice. You do what you want to do. But with every choice comes consequences. So if you are going to make a choice, make a decision to take a vaccine or not take a vaccine or drink or not drink or whatever the situation is, you have to be willing to deal with those consequences. And
I'm the exact same. I'm pro-choice. I'm completely vaccinated. And if I had to get it for some reason, I would get it. But even I didn't get the flu vaccine until last year when I had to go see my grandma and I couldn't get into the nursing home to see her. I'd never had a flu vaccine because I didn't feel like I needed it. But I went and got one, so I'm not, anti-vax. And the same thing would be with this. If I wanted to travel or something like that, I would go get it.
100%.
So
I think, you know, with my position with being pro-choice, I try and be as objective as I can be. And I try and listen to different opinions. So I'll sit down, I'll have a discussion with somebody who is anti-vax, and I'll listen to everything they've got to say. And then I will sit down and have a discussion with someone who's pro-vax and listen to everything they have to say. Consider all of these different opinions and then try and form my own objective, thoughtful opinion on what's actually going on. And I encourage you guys to do the same, right? So you may listen to what we've got to say in this video. Go and listen to somebody who is pro-vax, go and listen to someone who's anti-vax, go and read scientific papers, go and actually be curious about what's going on. Have a little bit of curiosity. Don't just consume the shit that the media is pushing down your throat, or that influencer on social media is pushing down your throat, or that political party or that political leader or whatever the fuck it is. And everyone, you know, whatever their agenda is, don't just consume one perspective. actually be curious, consume as many perspectives as you can, and then come up with your own decision based on critical thinking skills. When I consider the pros and cons of the vaccine, and I tend to agree with what you've said, right? At this point, you know, the pros or the theoretical pros are that if you contract COVID, right, the vaccine will prevent you from getting as ill, or if you're in, you know, the very high risk where it could actually be death, terminal, it will ideally prevent you from dying. Right. So that's the main pro of the vaccine. At this point, it's pretty well accepted that the vaccine has nothing to do with transmission. You can be vaccinated and still contract COVID. Once you've got it, if you're vaccinated, you can still spread COVID. So as far as we know at this point, the vaccine doesn't prevent transmission. It just prevents what happens when you get COVID. Right. It may make those symptoms much more mild. That's the pro. The cons of the vaccine, okay, we have evidence of short-term cons. There's blood clots, there's seizures, there's, you know, all of these immediate short-term negative side effects that have been reported. You can't, guys, you can't turn a blind eye to it. You can't go, you know, it was just 1 in 10,000 or it was 1 in 25,000. Evidence of it happening is enough evidence, right? Are you happy with the risk of 1 in 10,000? Pro-choice. You do what you want to do. So long as you don't turn a blind eye to it, and you go in eyes wide open and you understand what the risks are, and you're still happy to proceed and still happy to make that choice, I'm all for it. You do you. So that's the first con, is the actual evidence of short-term side effects. The other con is we don't know what the medium to long-term side effects are.
We don't know.
We can't possibly know because the vaccine is less than 12 months old. So there have been no studies done over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. No. They don't exist. They can't possibly exist. So that's the other con, is actually not knowing what the medium to long-term side effects are of the vaccine. Once you've got all that information, make your own choice. You want to get it, I support you. You don't want to get it, I support you. If you're happy to exercise your own choice to deal with the consequences, you've got my support. That's as far as it goes from a health perspective. Business perspective.
I'll let you touch on this one because I don't own the business, so I think you got a few views on this.
You know, where do you want me to go with this, Vince?
Well, I mean, the way it was worded is pros and cons of the vaccine on business. So do you think people having the vaccine will make business better than where we are sitting now without the vaccine in terms of lockdown community?
If I had a crystal ball. If I had a crystal ball. I think one of the biggest issues is that definitely in Australia, you know, we're still very much focused on counting cases. We know that the vaccine doesn't prevent transmission, and so those two things don't add up. Right. So if we reach, you know, whatever herd immunity the number is, that percentage of vaccination, 60%, 70%, whatever it is. But we're still counting cases, and the number of cases is the catalyst for lockdowns. Vaccination is going to have absolutely no effect on business. It's going to continue to be, we've got this many cases, we need to lock shit down. The frustrating thing for me from a business perspective is that we actually don't have a path forward from our elected leaders about how this is going to play out. You know, we don't have, okay, when we reach 10% vaccination, this happens. When we reach 20%, this is now the gold standard. When we reach 40%, we're going to stop looking at cases. We're going to start looking at people in hospital. When we reach 60%, we stop looking at people in hospital. We look at people in ICU. When we reach 80%, we don't even count anything anymore. We just go, you know, it is what it is. We don't know. Like, no one's told us that.
No.
So at this point, we're just like, we've got these you know, a mask over our face at this point, and
literally,
you know, and that's the frustrating thing from a business perspective, is we just don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I think, I mean, really, if there is a plan like that, it should be shared with everyone, with the country, because then if the government's trying to get more people vaccinated to hit that, if we know what their plan is with it, they're probably going to get more uptake. 100%. It's like, what's the point of getting vaccinated? We don't know if it's actually going to do anything for our community.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, there's obviously a lot of quote unquote conspiracy, and I say that, you know, with a grain of salt, because people will look at evidence and come up with their own theories of what's going on. But I think the fact that there isn't a lot of transparency in the decision-making process from the government to the people is driving a lot of this. Is people are starting to go, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Why are these decisions being made? Why are states closing borders? Why are different political leaders having different stances? Whether they're, in the US they have left and right. Here we have Liberal and Labor, which is kind of similar, but not really. They're different political views, opposing political views.
Yeah.
And there's this kind of undertone of, what is the actual intention here? My perspective on it is, I think for the most part, public servants are trying to do the best thing for the public.
Yeah.
The problem is they're really not good at communicating. They're
Yeah.
really just not, like we watch these press conferences with the Premier of South Australia and the Prime Minister of Australia, and it's just like, man, firstly, answer the fucking question, and then secondly, tell us what's actually going on. Like, just be honest. If you don't know what's going on, say we don't know what's going on. Don't get a health professional to say that the aerosol bounced off the fucking edge of the corridor and jacked into something. Like, come on. Like, how stupid do you think we are? That's the frustrating thing. And I just think if there was more transparency and more vulnerability from our leaders,
Yeah.
I think that there would be much more understanding from people, much less frustration, much less anger, and then we'd actually be able to go, okay, this is the light at the end of the tunnel. This is the pathway through. These are the reasons for the different decisions at different points along the path, and you know what? We're all in.
Yeah.
We got this. At this point, we can't see a light at the end of the tunnel. We've got masks over our face.
Yeah.
The politicians are treating us like we're fucking stupid. And that's why people are frustrated.
I find it funny because you have correspondents or people we deal with through business in US and UK.
Yes.
And their opinions on what's happening here is what is happening here is like completely different to what's happening over there.
Yeah, 100%. And this is what I say when I say, I try and listen to people who have different opinions. I try to listen to people in different parts of the world as well, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, one of the good things that we have done in Australia is we have contained the virus. The UK, they're still getting, they're at the point now where they've got enough vaccination that they're considering it, effectively herd immunity.
Yeah.
They're still having 50,000 cases a day. They're having 1,000 people die a day.
Yeah.
You don't want to get in that situation.
Yeah.
Right. So
Exactly.
I think from an Australian perspective, we've done a very good job of keeping the virus under control, keeping the death count if not the lowest of all developed nations, definitely one of the lowest.
Yeah.
So we definitely don't want to go down, the way that the UK handled it.
No.
The US, I don't even want to start with the US, man. That's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
At this point, but it is, it is interesting to speak to these, these people who live in different countries and the different countries that have handled the virus differently. Look at what we're doing over here and give their opinion on it. And I listen to the opinion and I go, okay, that's interesting. Or, perhaps, keep that opinion to yourself sort of thing. But it's just interesting to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Do you trust the vaccine? Is the last part of this question, Vince.
Oh, I don't trust a lot of things, to be honest. There's not many things I do trust, to be honest.
Yeah.
If I had to say yes or no, probably no. Mm-hmm. But I don't trust a lot of things, and sometimes you just have to do it. Like, put up with it, or
Yeah. I think I've been doing a fair bit of reading recently on a concept called iatrogenics. For those of you who have never heard of it before, it's spelt, Dilip, throw this up on screen, iatrogenics.
Never heard of it.
Iatrogenics. And it's a medical term where it's the concept where medical treatment, whether it be like physical treatment like an operation or whether it be pharmaceutical treatment like drugs, does more harm than good.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting concept because the further down the harm path you are, the smaller the space for iatrogenics becomes, right? So the best example is if you treat a cancer patient who's terminally ill, right, and they've got 3 months to live, for example, and you put them on chemotherapy, which is incredibly harmful to the body. It's effectively poisoning your body with chemicals, right? The harm of that chemotherapy versus the benefit of that chemotherapy with someone who's got 3 months to live, is, the benefit outweighs the harm.
Yeah.
Right. So the iatrogenics is very small.
Yeah.
If you have somebody who's not very ill, let's take COVID, for example. Let's go fully direct to that, right? Let's just get straight to the point.
Yeah.
Let's take yourself, Vince. In your 20s, fit, healthy.
I like to think so.
Yeah, no underlying medical conditions, not immunocompromised, no immune system compromisation at all, right? If you were to take a vaccine, let's say the COVID vaccine, for example, we know that the benefits of the COVID vaccine are primarily if you are immunocompromised, if you're not fit and healthy, if you're somebody who's at risk of becoming seriously ill from COVID, there are benefits. Somebody like yourself, it's probably a stretch that the benefits are, if anything, to a degree of magnitude at all, right? There may be absolutely no benefits. On the flip side, the negative side effects are infinite for the fact that we don't know what they are. Right? We just don't know. So we have to say that it's infinite. So in that case, very small benefit, very big possibility for negative side effects. The iatrogenics is huge. Right? The iatrogenics is almost infinite. So when you kind of contrast those two situations and you consider the COVID vaccine, it does pay to do some research on iatrogenics and really kind of understand. That's what I encourage you guys to do. Go Google it, go read a little bit about it, and there are multiple examples of drugs that have been released by certain pharmaceutical companies that were quote unquote safe, that there were no negative side effects, no known negative side effects. The benefit was moderate. In most cases it was moderate. And then a few years later, they caused birth defects, they caused cancer, a huge list of negative side effects. And then you look at the iatrogenics and you're like, well, there was such a small benefit for such a huge possibility of side effects. And the iatrogenics was completely huge. And there's so many examples of that. I think when it comes back to, do you trust the vaccine? I don't think that the intention of these pharmaceutical companies, right? And the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world have some of the best minds in the world working.
They're the best pharmacists working there, the best biologists, everyone is going to be, some of the smartest minds in the world are going to be working there.
And I think that, it's a bit of a stretch to say that their intention is not to promote the health of the public, right? They're in the business of making effective drugs that make people healthy, and you can have the whole argument about prevention is the best cure and all of that. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, do you trust this particular vaccine? I think the intention of the pharmaceutical companies, and definitely the minds that work in these pharmaceutical companies, is to produce a drug that's beneficial to people, that has zero iatrogenics is ideal, or small iatrogenics where the benefit far outweighs any negative side effects. So you trust the companies, you trust the people working for the companies, but at the same time, Vince, people make mistakes.
They do,
The best minds in the world make mistakes. We had the best rocket scientists in the world at the time working on the Challenger shuttle. And their intention was to send that thing to the moon. And their intention was to create history. And it got off the ground and exploded, right? And it killed everybody on board. It was a massive disaster. Was their intention to kill the people on board and make a shuttle explode? No, of course it wasn't. Were they some of the best rocket scientists, the smartest minds in the world at the time? Yes, they were. Do you trust them that their intention was pure? Yes, you do. Did they make a mistake? Yes, they did. And if it can happen once, it can happen again. So, do you trust the vaccine?
I mean, it's not a trust thing. It's just a benefit analysis, I guess.
It is.
Cost-benefit analysis.
It's iatrogenics. Is exactly what it is. I seriously encourage you guys to go and do your own research. And this, that's the theme of this episode, right? Is we're not going to push our opinions on you guys. We encourage you to do your own research. Talk to people who have differing opinions. Don't fall into the trap of confirmation bias, which therefore leads to cognitive dissonance. Actually be curious, take the information in, and then make up your own mind.
Yeah.
Make your own choice, be comfortable with the consequences, and go from there.
100%.
That's all right.
That's it.
That's it. Guys, if you have a question that you would like us to answer in the very next episode of The Clinical Dose, the best place to post it is right here on the YouTube channel in the comments down below. Vince picks the 5 best questions from there first and foremost, before he goes looking for other ones in the MassiveJoes galaxy. But the comment section is the best place to post your questions. Vince, do you have anything else to add?
That's it.
Guys, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn your post notifications on your mobile, your cell phone, your desktop PC, your smart TV, any device that you're watching this video on, so you don't miss a beat when it comes to all these new editions of The Clinical Dose and everything else that we have going on here on the MassiveJoes YouTube channel. Until next time, where we coming to and from, Vince?
MassiveJoes.com.
Stay massive. Thank you for tuning into this video. We hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to check out our latest upload and our recommended video, and be sure to subscribe to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our latest uploads.